exciting. I think it's an exciting topic here today. We're going to
dive into.
Well, we've gotten past all of our real focus on conversion, and we're going to be going into our next series. But this is kind of the in-between stuff.
Yeah, we figured we'd seed in some fun stuff before going into our next big topic. Yep. We're headed here at the end of the year. So I think what we talked about is we wanted to get into some trends that are happening, some interesting things, topics that we just think are important.
Yeah.
You're coming into 2020, we're going to have flying cars and all of that, so you should be prepared for, the really cool things in marketing that are just going to change your life. So we figured we'd do some fun trending topics.
Yeah.
And since we're getting close to Christmas, since I'm going to be delivering presents soon, I just figured I'd start growing out that beard so that I can do that. So everybody gets to see me with my Santa beard growing, and we'll see how it looks in a couple weeks, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, so what are we talking about today?
Well, I think we're going to talk to your point on SaaS marketing trends, and in particular, a couple of things that I've been looking at and seeing on the rise that I wanted to talk about because I think it's important is the idea of just education, the importance of education and thought leadership. I think this is kind of coming to the surface as SaaS is maturing, and there's always businesses out there that have limited competition, but in most cases you're going up against competition, right?
Right.
How do you stand out? How do you differentiate? And what's becoming really important is for those SaaS companies to offer something in addition to just their product. I think a great example of this would be like HubSpot, right? Most people are familiar with HubSpot, and for so long I think they've gotten to where they are because people started to rely on them for their thought leadership, all the content and really good stuff they're putting out there that showed they knew what they were talking about, made you want to try their things out or at least get on their list and then stay in touch with them. So just talking along those lines, just where do you see things going from the need for education, or how important is that?
Yeah, I think it's such an important piece is to be educating customers and show that you're a thought leader. I mean, one of the challenges that I typically see is that young SaaS companies or early software companies have a hesitancy to do this.
Yeah.
They're so worked up in developing the product out, getting those initial customers, all of these things, that I think what we would say education, or you could kind of align it to content marketing, creation of content that creates that thought leadership that you can leverage on social media, that impacts your search rank, and you're starting to bring traffic into you organically through the search engines. It's just something that in early stages a lot of times I think gets left behind, and then once the software company matures, they start understanding that channel a little bit more and their place in the market and trying to gain market share. That being said, I think it's something from the beginning, if you're going to build this software company, one of the great things is establishing that expertise from the beginning. There's actually even a rule of thumb or thought that one of the things you can do is before you even have the product launched, start building that thought leadership so you've developed an audience. There's been some amazing products developed. We're actually doing that with a product right now, is that it's not even launched, but we're already beginning to create a library of content that will, bring in the right audience. We can get them signed up for a newsletter, maybe tease the fact that there's a product coming that's related to it. And so then by the time we've launched it, hopefully we've got a list of 1,000 people that can be part of that initial push. And so I think to that point, just, a lot of times content marketing and thought leadership can be held off. I actually think it should be the opposite. It's one of the very first things you can do that can really help you out in those initial stages of building a software business.
I would just say to that, I totally agree with that. And just in today's world, it's so easy. Like creating content is something that is simple to do. It's just sweat equity. You have a little time. In most cases, if you're building software related to something, you probably know that space to some extent, or there's someone on the team that kind of has that expertise. So whether it's writing, whether it's video content, whatever that is, multiple modalities is the best, right? But it's something that it's ubiquitous. Anybody can do it. It's
and
all
it's
over the place.
it's inexpensive too. If you don't have the time, you're purely a product developer and you're kind of bootstrapping. That's something that's a low cost solution.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I think the biggest, if I'm thinking about starting a software company, or I'm looking at spinning out a product from an existing company, one of the first things I want to do is build an audience, because that can help me so that when my product is launched, I'm not starting at zero. And it's something that I have seen huge success. Even people that, the thought process is they spend a year building a big audience.
Yeah.
And then they've they've captured people that are interested, already see them as a thought leader, all of these different things that then when they launch the product, it's perfect and it's sticky for that.
Yeah, and you're getting that conceptual buy-in before you make an offer. You're getting the building up, a relationship, right? People,
Right.
if they know you, they like you, they trust you. Even if there's competing products out there, it's, I'll try Andy's solution.
Right.
I've learned so much from, whatever it is. It's
The other
powerful.
the other is actually market research. So imagine if for a year you're producing content based around the topic of what your product is going to be.
Yeah.
And so you can now create articles and see which ones are getting the most visits, which ones are ranking well on search engines and getting a lot of visits through search, which ones are being shared, potentially commented on. And now, maybe some of those articles are reflective of features or aspects of the product that in your development process you can focus on, or in your initial launch you understand that those could be key messages and statements that you want to put out about these are the three things that this product does really well. Well, you prioritize those because you found that articles about those topics were so popular.
Yeah. A lot of times, the product creator thinks that here are the top 3 features.
Right.
And maybe one of those is correct, but then there's 2 others that are like, oh wow, I've never known that. So the market kind of can tell you what they want. So that's a great point.
So I think that content can be great in that pre-launch stage. Obviously, when you're just starting out, it can be challenging, but organic traffic pays off over the long term. If you create this great thought leadership, great content, there's some cost and effort in the beginning. But as we've seen with our clients and with our own stuff, is that stuff can sometimes last 2-3 years in continuing to produce results. And so there is this long-term value that the longer you take to start getting into it, the more you're holding off that long-term value.
It can be foundational if you're doing it early on, and you can build off of it, because it is that long-term play with content marketing and SEO and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And then as you go longer term, I think as you become a more established player, you can really take it up another level, because you can really bring in people from your team that hopefully have a high level of expertise, because you've grown your team. You probably have some more budget that you can really do some more imaginative things. One of the cool things you look at MailChimp doing right now is they're doing mini documentaries. I mean, and they're it's crazy, and they're like, it's like something you would see on Netflix. And so now that they've kind of got the budget and money, they're doing something at a whole different level, kind of doing documentaries about businesses.
That's cool.
And it's literally, I think if you go on their homepage, that is the first thing you see is these documentaries. So, I think as you expand as a company, you can really take content to a whole new level, do things really creative, bring in high-level experts, and then it's about not just being someone that's already got market share, but really establishing yourself as the top player. And that's what something like HubSpot has done, and now that MailChimp's, I think, trying to go after that same market of the combined software, that they're taking their content to a whole different level and telling different stories. So it's pretty interesting what can be done.
For sure.
I think the key for me, though, whatever stage you're at, here's what we've got to come back to, and this ties a lot into things that we've mentioned throughout the show for conversion, but really understanding your target audience. So Who are the people that you want to buy from you? I think, as people that launch software, we're launching our own software packages, we're doing it for clients, is that we want to sell to everybody, and we have, our first audience, but then we think of 10 more that could use our product. Narrowing down, saying this is our ideal audience, these are the low-hanging fruit, the people most likely to buy our product, and then, understanding their pains and challenges. I think the first place that I go to when I'm trying to create really great content is look at that audience and say, what challenges and pains and issues are keeping them up at night? They're fighting at work. And if you can list those pains and challenges down, you now have a list of great content that people are out there searching the internet for answers to. And so that's what it's really about, is that process of truly understanding your audience and then really digging into the motivations, pains, challenges, issues, all of those things. And that gives you your content, library at that point.
And then something that I love your concept that you talk about, but I'm thinking, okay, so if I establish, these pretty precise target audiences, and maybe I have a few that I start off with limited, how do I target them? And I know you like to talk about like micro funnels, and I think that's a great, really powerful concept. So you want to share kind of your approach?
We talk about micro funnels is that, as a business, let's say for software, we've identified 5 different, target markets that we can go after. I think it's about developing, you pick 1 or 2 that are your best opportunity, and you judge those in different ways. I typically look at what's the opportunity in the market, how much demand is there, what's the level of competition, how specialized is our product for that market, and then do we have any experience in the market? And we can then look at those 5, make that evaluation, and probably limit it down to 1, 2, or 3 that should be really our focus. And then from there, we can create these kind of micro funnels where really it's creating a content calendar for each one, and then some landing pages, and really just thinking of them as separate campaigns for each of those audiences. And so it's really about, instead of trying to create content and ideas that cover all 5, because then you're diluted, you're washed out. And one of the biggest things about being educational and creating content is producing real value, stuff that people go to, read, and just it helps solve their problem or improve their day or entertain them. And you can't do that when you're doing that to 10 different types of people, and it's so diluted because you're trying to talk to all of them and answer all of their problems. What you really want to do to create true value is narrow in this type of person with this very specific problem, and that becomes something that's truly valuable, that gets searched, gets shared. And then the biggest for me is brand equity. They get to it, they read it, and they say, wow, this company really knows what they're talking about. We have to work with them, or we have to buy their product. And so it's really about creating that process, narrowing down the funnels, determining pains, challenges, motivations, creating that content calendar, really developing value, and that is what's going to drive all those big results that are important to growth.
And then over time, so if you have a priority of your different audiences, you prioritize, you can always scale out. But you want to start with the biggest opportunity that's right in front of you. That's who you're going to target. Writing articles that are talking to them, maybe direct you to a call to action that's an offer directly, for them, a webinar or something. But we can always then scale out, right? Because I think the concern is always that, well, if I focus on this, I'm missing out on all this. But it's just you want to go, where can you maximize and really focus 100% your attention, and then just build it out.
Look, I mean, whether we're an early stage startup or we're even further along and we're funded, a lot of times we have limited time and limited budget. That's every business has some sort of limitations on those 2 things, unless you're in some really special scenario where unlimited budget, unlimited time and resources. But that being said, what we don't want to do is focus either on the wrong things or be too spread out that we're not getting enough depth in one thing. And so really that's where that prioritization comes in, is back to, you can't do everything, but then as you become successful in one, you can expand into others because you need less time and resources in the one that you built up and have running and it's going well.
Yeah.
And that gives you the ability to spin out. But I think too many people when they start, eyes are big, we have all these audiences, we don't want to miss out on anything, and so the solution ends up being wrong, which is a lot of stuff to a lot of people, generalized, and it's not that true like education, creating real value, solving real problems, and that stuff is what really works. So it's huge. And I do think, for any business that's thinking about doing this, there's just so many value points. It's not only search optimization, but it's that word of mouth with sharing and potentially viral content, whether it's B2B educational or it's B2C entertainment. So you've got that word of mouth piece, inbound links into the site which drive traffic, just general having thought leadership and owning the market, that you might get invited to conferences to speak. There's so many different things that tie into this. I really think content can be at the center of the universe. The other piece people don't typically think of is using content in sales.
I was just going to say that.
So
so I was just going to jump in and say in sales as well, right? So people in sales, content is such a great partner to a sales, because rather than, if I'm prospecting and I reach out to you, Andy, rather than say, hey, just checking in, wanted to see where you're at, I can add value. And at the same time, not only am I giving you something that is hopefully useful to you, but I'm also keeping the brand in front of you, and you feel like, oh wow, this guy's helping me out right along the way. So I think I'm seeing a lot more of that, just people in the sales realm really kind of getting how valuable content can be. So totally get that one.
Yeah, and I think it's relational to the type of software. If you're selling a big enterprise software, that there's a longer sales cycle, it's what you're talking about. A salesperson is leveraging that content. If you're a SaaS company where it's more turnkey, then it's the free trial process. If I've got 15 days of a free trial, that's 15 days that I could be educating my customer or potential customer about why they should be caring about this product.
It becomes a sequence in your
email. And then over time, I think the other piece is, if you've got a product, after the sale, customer experience retention is, if you're doing more than just providing a product, you're actually helping them solve problems. Beyond that, then when that renewal comes for $100 or $300, or even the renewal for the $100,000 software, if you were providing value over the last 12 months beyond just the product, that is inside them when they're making that decision for that renewal. So
great point.
I think that content kills it in marketing, really can support sales, and then also can support retention. And as software companies, we're trying to make all of those work together at the end of the day. So
good stuff. I see that as an area really for people to focus on. Content isn't going anywhere. Thought leadership's not going anywhere.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Content marketing is not an old topic, and people have been talking about it. But we are in a market that isn't changing from a standpoint of people doing their own research. They're going out. They're finding their own products. They're making decisions on their own. It's not the mass media. And so if that's the marketplace, as people are going out and finding things, or they're using word of mouth, content is just always going to be a center point. I think what's shifting is the type of content. I think we're moving away from low value, quick turnkey stuff, to more things like video and what we're doing today, live shows, or we've come up with some really interesting, crazy ideas for clients. The documentary by MailChimp is such a cool idea. So I think what's going to change is the type of content to fit with the flavor of where people are, what's interesting to them, whether it's memes and GIFs, or it's live video, or it's imagery. That's going to shift, but the whole concept of, people want to go out there and find their own solution, and there's different ways that you can reach them, and at the end of the day, whatever that type of content is or whatever form it takes is still that fodder that pulls people in. It's still what they're looking for to solve a problem, be entertained, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
So,
just a reminder that there's some lasting power behind that. It's long-term usage.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like you're just putting it together to publish it on a certain day, there's value that lasts way beyond that.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was a good topic and a good trend for, as you're going into 2020, whether you're early on trying to decide to create a product, you're in the enterprise realm, it's important to make this as part of that marketing strategy that you're developing. And the key points just from the day, I think, narrow it down, really focus on audience and their pains and challenges. Be creative with the types of content. It just doesn't have to be articles. It can be a wide range.
Yeah.
And then obviously just integrate in the rest of your approach is that it can be part of marketing, sales, retention, all of those pieces. It doesn't just have to be a marketing piece or a blog. It can be so much more.
Yeah.
So I think if you follow those kind of tips and pieces, you can be really successful at content, and you can not only benefit near term, but this is a long-term game that can really just pay dividends over and over again.
for sure.
So cool.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate everybody coming in on this Wednesday. We're getting close to the holidays. We're going to have a couple more, I think, of these trend shows before we get into our next big topic of retention, which will be fun. We'll see how my beard evolves over this next couple weeks and go from there.
Might need to move the camera back to capture it all.
I'll do Duck Dynasty here and see if we can, look like that. But awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Take care.
Bye.